Welcome back to another video, everyone. Today I thought we would do a little tutorial video on the product video that I just did. I'll play that for you right now. Alright, so let's break down exactly how I shot it and what I did to kind of achieve the overall look that I was going for. So I shot the video here in my super unique apartment kitchen. As you can see, there really isn't anything special about it. It's not like I had some nice studio or anything like that. All right, so this is pretty much it. It didn't take a ton of stuff to kind of set up the entire set. What we have here is just some dollar kind of black poster board right here, nothing special. And then I actually just had this bowl of chilies drying. So I had that kind of going for me already. And then I had obviously the star of the show, the chili oil. For the spinning shots of the hot oil, I just used this. This is a cheap $20 automatic Lazy Susan. You can find them on Amazon. If you don't want to buy one of these, you can use just a regular Lazy Susan. That works too, but I like this because it's matte black and it gets like a consistent spin to it. With the manual one, you kind of can get variations and it's hard to time certain things. So I use that, and then for the hero shots, I used a black t-shirt to add kind of some texture to the foreground, and I placed the chilies along the different ridges of the shirt. And then I used this aperture bulb light set to a kind of orange hue to add that kind of fiery feeling to the background of the chili oil. And so when it's shown through, you get that nice kind of red hot fiery heat look to it. In the background, as you can see, I have my big blue screen. And okay, so I don't know where the little light is, but I used this little aperture MC light. It's one of those tiny little square LED lights to kind of fill in the shadow side of the blue screen, just to give it an even wash so it's easier to key out. And on this key light, which is the Godox SL60W, I have a softbox with the internal baffle inside of it. And then in front of that on the side is a piece of white foam core. That's just keeping the Godox light from bringing any unwanted light onto the blue screen in the back. Over here is the internal diffusion from a 5-in-1 reflector. So this probably isn't necessarily best practice, but I was using the daylight coming in from my big window as kind of an overall fill light. It was a day similar to today where it was just overcast, cloudy, and pretty unchanging light. I wasn't really worried about the sun peeking in and out of clouds. And since most of the shots took me around half hour to get, it didn't really have any crazy light change to it. So overall it worked, but I don't know if I would recommend it for a really important project. That's about it. It was pretty simple. Most of the work is going to be done in the editing software as I'm compositing all of the different shots together. So let's go through some of the shots that I got. The shot that was the most fun to make, that I kind of got the most crafty for, was definitely getting these spinning shots of the chilies on their own. And I did that so I could composite them together and get that chili explosion. And I did that by taping the chilies to this chopstick with some blue painter's tape, so that also made it easy to key out since I was already keying out blue. And I took my automatic Lazy Susan and I put some double-sided tape right down in the center and just taped the chopstick to stand upright in it. And I did that with a few different chilies to get some variation in shape, size, and how they looked while they were spinning. The shot of the chili oil spinning on its own was pretty simple. I took this little kind of sauce container, this little side sauce dish, and I used it to elevate the chili oil bottle on the Lazy Susan, and I just had that spin. And then in the editing software Resolve, I just keyed out the blue background and then did a little mask just to kind of mask this out from the bottom. And overall, pretty simple, but pretty effective to get this kind of full bottle shot of the chili oil spinning. The hero shot at the very end was mostly just set dressing. I took a little bit of time to make sure I had chilies where I wanted them in the foreground, in the background, and that the aperture light, this orange light, was positioned in a way where it was giving me that nice light, but it wasn't showing through the bottle. The lighting for it all stayed pretty consistent through the first shots, and everything else that I used, kind of the assets that were on top, the flame in the background and the kind of sparks that were flying, those are some assets that I downloaded off of Storyblocks. And I'm not sponsored or connected in any way with Storyblocks or with Epidemic Sound. That's where I got the music. But I think they're great resources, especially for this kind of video creation. They have a lot of... All right, so those are all the shots and the set that I shot it on. Let's go into the editor and I'll kind of break down some of the key shots and how I comped it all together. All right, we are at the computer, so let's jump into a breakdown of the editing process for this video. So first thing, let's just quickly go over how I keyed out these blue backgrounds. So in the color panel here, first thing I'm going to do is make it so this blue separates just a little bit better from the subject here. So I'm going to go under our hue versus luminance, and I'm going to select the blue, and I'm just going to bring up the luminance on the blue a little bit. I'm also going to bring up the shadows here on the background, and then we're going to go over here to this hue versus sat. So we're going to bring up the saturation here, so we bring back some of that saturation into the blue that we lost from bringing up the shadows, and this looks fine, so we'll leave it there. Next thing I'm going to do is in the node window, I'm going to right click and add an alpha output. This is going to allow us to key out this blue area. So we're going to connect our node to the alpha output, and then right here we're going to use the 3D keyer, and once that's applied, this picker will be selected and we can kind of draw what colors we want to remove, and just like that the blue is removed. Alright, so now that we have the blue background removed, it looks like the tape didn't remove on this one. That's okay, it's going to be easy to remove with a mask here, and we're going to have to do that anyways with the chopstick. And when you're doing this yourself, you're going to want to use these kind of key adjustments, the despill options, and then also these matte finesse options right here. That'll help you kind of clean up any of the edges around your selection to help you get a better key. I'm not going to do that for this video just because it would take a little while. So we're just going to jump into how we would remove this little chopstick area here. So I'm going to right click the clip, and I'm going to create a new fusion clip from it. And now that this is a fusion clip, I'm going to right click, open in the fusion page, and as you can see we have our clip here. Now it might look a little overwhelming if you haven't worked in a node-based editor before, but it's really simple. This is our media here, and this is our output here. So we're going to want to click on our polygon here, and that's going to create a polygon mask. Now if it's connected to the media, it's going to automatically just make everything disappear. So all you have to do is just disconnect it, and then you can see again. And then what we're going to do is just draw a mask around this chopstick and the tape. And now we can scrub through and we can adjust the mask to make sure it covers the whole thing. And as you scrub through and adjust this, it's going to automatically add keyframes. And so, as you can see, it shifts over time to follow where we put in those keyframes. It's not perfect, but it'll be fine for this. If we just connect the polygon mask to the media, it's going to mask out everything outside of the shape that we drew. So all you have to do over in the tools area is click invert, and you should be good, and it'll mask out just what you drew around. So now that we have our chopstick masked out, we can go back to our editor, and now we have a chili just rotating and floating on its own to be used as an asset later. So here are a few chilies that I masked out and then I animated. So the way I animated it to come out of the jar, so the chilies, as I lift off the lid, they appear and then they grow bigger and spin around. That clip actually only has about 3 different chilies in it. What I did is similar to this. This is the same chili, just a duplicated clip. And all I did was change the zoom and the X and Y position and the rotation angle using keyframes to just make sure that they were a little bit different. And then once I had a few of these grouped together, I would create compound clips. And eventually I was left with quite a few chilies bouncing around. Another clip that I thought I would go over was this chili wipe transition here. The chili wipes across the screen, revealing this other shot. This is a pretty simple, but I think effective way to do a transition in Fusion. This is a pretty simple setup. It's just 2 different shots here. It's shown as Media 1 and Media 2, and then those go into a merge node. If you need to create a merge node, if you press Shift Space, you can search merge, and then if you add that, it will give you another merge node where you can kind of combine 2 shots into one. So on our Media 1, we have the shot of the jar, and then our Media 2 is going to be our chili. If we scrub forward, we can see our chili here. All we did was create another polygon mask like we did for the masking of the chili, and we linked that to the jar here. And what that allows us to do is draw a mask close to the chili without essentially taking any of the chili away. So we could draw it halfway through the chili, and the chili's still going to be there because it's not affecting that shot at all. And I just followed the chili as it went, and that is going to mask out that jar as we pass by it. And so these kind of additional things that I added to kind of bring the look up a little bit was some particle effects. I have a fire effect right here that is set to an add mode with a pretty low opacity. If we take it on and off, it's just adding a little bit of that fiery look to the image. And then the background is this particle fire, and that has a mirror effect on it. And then over the top of everything, we have this flare, this light flare that is just set to add as well. I didn't have to adjust the opacity at all just because it was so light to begin with already. But if you need to, you can do that right here under the opacity slider. The next and final shot, the chili hero shot, has the fire in the background. It adds kind of a little separation from the rest of the shots and gives a really final fiery look to the hero shot. And then I have that particle effect going on in the background, as well as another one in the foreground, adding some sparks to it. And then what I did is I exported this as a single clip just because It was kind of slow to work with, and there were a lot of composited clips and a lot of compound clips, and it was kind of slowing down my machine a little bit. So I exported it and created a new timeline with that clip to do my audio work. So as far as sound effects go, it might look like quite a few, but most of them are just adding texture to the overall sound. I'll play through it once here quick. Okay, so let's break down what we have going on with the audio. Right here we have this windstorm. All that is doing is adding this kind of ambient, windy, fiery sound to it. And then over the top of that, I have this wood fire sound. And that's giving that nice crackle and fiery feel to it. And then at the very end on the hero shot, we have a sizzle sound. That's just adding that final little bit to create this overall fiery sound. Another sound that we have going on in here is a metal lid sound. That's just to kind of help bring a little realism. We also have here a fireball, and that goes along with the chilies to kind of add a little flair in the sound design there, so it's not all so repetitive and simple. So on this chili powder shot here, we have a gunpowder sound effect, and that's overlaid with a sonic boom sound. And so those two together kind of create this sandy, kind of gritty sound from the gunpowder and a overall boom sound from the sonic boom. And then we just have a little whoosh sound effect that goes by as the chili wipes across the screen. And I believe we have another whoosh as we transition from the peppers to the chili powder. And then for the song itself, I went with kind of a rock and roll, heavy rock style, just because I thought it fit nicely with the fiery and more aggressive look of the video itself. So there's that. And then all together, once again, this is the final sound. So to me, that's a lot better than just a music track. When we have all of these audio clips going as well, it really adds a lot of depth and creates a more interesting overall video. So that's all I have for you today. If you liked this product video breakdown style video, a like would be super helpful. It's helpful with the algorithms. If you want to be notified for when I release more content, I plan on doing some more videos like this, focusing on product videography, as well as some more photo walk videos coming out in the future. You can hit the subscribe button and that bell icon, and that will notify you when I have new videos coming out on the channel. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.